My name is Jennifer Bush. I'm 32 years old, and if there's one thing I've learned the hard way, it's that love can make you blind to arrogance disguised as ambition. When I first met Vincent, he seemed like everything I'd been told to look for. Charming, well-dressed, articulate, the kind of man who could talk about champagne vintages and quarterly profits in the same breath. We met at a mutual friend's party, the kind where everyone smells faintly of money and pretends to like jazz. I remember standing by the window, half listening to a conversation about NFTs when Vincent appeared beside me, holding 2 glasses of wine. "You look like you hate this," he said. "I do," I replied without hesitation. He grinned. "Good. I thought I was the only one pretending." It started easily, naturally, the kind of chemistry that feels scripted. We began dating soon after. He worked in luxury retail management, managing exclusive brand launches and high-profile clients. Everything about him screamed sophistication, pressed shirts, sleek cars, a condo, with scented candles that probably cost more than my rent. Me, I'm a software engineer. My world is comfortable, practical, slightly messy. I drive a used Toyota and live off cold brew and bug-free code. My friends Raj, Marcus, Diego, and Kevin are my people. We've known each other since college. We play poker every Thursday, order takeout, and argue about whose startup idea is the most ridiculous. They're my second family. Vincent, however, didn't see it that way. At first, he was polite, curious even. "So your friends are all guys?" he asked one night, his tone neutral, but his eyes calculating. "Yeah," I said, smiling. "We've known each other for over a decade. They're like brothers to me." He nodded slowly, the kind of nod people give when they're pretending not to judge. "That's nice. I just wonder if it's the best look for you, career-wise. I mean, poker nights, pizza boxes. You're in your 30s, Lena. Shouldn't you be networking with people who can help you grow?" That was the first crack. He started small, comments disguised as concern. "It's just, they don't seem very driven. Raj still wears flip-flops to restaurants. Diego lives in a van. That's unconventional." Every remark was sugar-coated, but the message was clear. My friends didn't fit the image he wanted beside him. Then came the invitations. I never got Friday dinners with his co-workers, gallery openings, networking cocktails. Each one paired with subtle digs. "It'd be nice if you dressed up more. You'd love my friend's girlfriend. She's elegant, very poised." The more time we spent it together, the more I noticed how obsessed he was with appearances. Everything was about presentation. His friends weren't really friends, they were props in the theater of his ambition. One Thursday evening, I was pulling on my jacket for poker night when he leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Again. "Yeah, it's Thursday," I said, tying my hair into a bun. He frowned. "Don't you think you've outgrown this? You could be meeting people who matter. You're wasting time with guys who play cards in sweatpants." "They're my friends, Vincent." He sighed dramatically, like a parent talking to a stubborn child. "I just think you deserve better company. People with ambition, with drive, not hobbyists." I froze. "Hobbyists? You know what I mean," he said quickly. "I'm not trying to offend anyone, but look at them. Raj. He shows up everywhere in those ridiculous flip-flops. Marcus never leaves the house. Diego lives out of a van. And Kevin, honestly, he barely speaks. It's weird." "Kevin's shy," I said evenly. "He also built half the security architecture your bank app runs on." Vincent blinked, pretending to listen. "I'm just saying maybe spend your Thursdays doing something more productive. You could be networking, joining industry panels, something useful." Useful. That word landed like a slap. For the first time, I didn't argue. I just looked at him, the man I'd been planning to move in with, and realized he wasn't seeing me at all. He saw a version of me that fit his glossy reflection. He smiled when I didn't respond. "You know I just want the best for you, right?" I nodded slowly. "Of course." But inside, something clicked. That night at poker, surrounded by laughter-cluttered chips and Raj's endless Star Wars references, I couldn't stop replaying Vincent's words. People who matter, useful, ambition. As Diego dealt the next hand, I looked around the room at these so-called losers who had never once made me feel small. I realized something. Vincent didn't hate my friends. He hated what they represented, a version of me that didn't need his approval. I took a sip of beer and smiled. "Hey guys," I said suddenly. They all looked up. "Next week," I continued, "I'm bringing someone to dinner. Dress however you like." Raj grinned. "That's dangerous." "Perfect," I said. Under the dim kitchen light, my quiet plan began to take shape. When Saturday came, Vincent was glowing with self-satisfaction. He thought I'd finally seen reason. "I'm proud of you," he said while adjusting his cufflinks. "This dinner is a good idea. Maybe your friends will pick up a few things about professionalism." I smiled in the mirror as I fixed my earrings. Oh, I'm sure they'll make quite an impression. He didn't notice the edge in my voice. We'd made a reservation at La Côte, one of those dimly lit restaurants where the menus have no prices and the waiters speak in lowercase tones. Vincent loved it there, the white tablecloths, the French phrases, the illusion of importance. He arrived in a perfectly fitted navy suit. I wore a simple black dress, deliberately understated. My friends. Well, they got a very specific text from me earlier that day. Tonight's the night. Be yourselves, emphasis on yourselves. Vincent and I arrived first. He ordered wine before I could even sit down. You're going to thank me after tonight, he said confidently. It'll open your eyes. I didn't answer. Then Raj arrived. Cargo shorts, a faded Star Wars t-shirt, flip-flops, of course. His hair looked like it had been dried by wind, not a towel. Vincent blinked once, smiled tightly. Raj, right pleasure. Yo Raj grinned too loud for the quiet restaurant. Dang, this place is fancy. I feel like I need a bush slater for the menu. Vincent's smile faltered. Next came Diego hoodie and ripped jeans humming a video game soundtrack. Then Marcus sweatpants and a basketball jersey. Finally, Kevin, silent as ever, black hoodie zipped up to his neck. The hostess hesitated before seating them. Vincent forced a polite laugh. What a colorful group. I rested my chin on my hand. Aren't they great? Dinner began. So Vincent said, voice dripping with charm. Tell me about yourselves. Raj flipped the menu upside down. I dabble in a little bit of everything. You know this and that. Vincent chuckled without humor. That's vague. Diego leaned in. He means tech stuff, but he's too modest. We all do boring stuff. Not glamorous like your work, right? Vincent's eyes lit up. Well, I do manage one of the top retail chains in the country. We cater to elite clientele. It's about presentation, you know. Success begins with image. Marcus nodded solemnly. Yeah, that's why I wear sweatpants. Keeps me grounded. I almost choked on my drink. Vincent smiled thinly. I suppose comfort has its place. And Kevin? Kevin barely looked up from his phone. Server issues. Vincent scoffed. On a Saturday. That's unfortunate. Work must be so demanding. Kevin shrugged. Pays the bills. The conversation spiraled from there. Raj told a story about staying up until 4 a.m. playing Overwatch. Diego complained about conventions being too crowded. Marcus ranted about cryptocurrency in a way that even I didn't understand. Through it all, Vincent's expression shifted from polite discomfort to pure disapproval. He didn't even hide it anymore. When the check came, Raj pulled out a wallet that looked like it had survived an explosion. I got 20. That enough. Vincent placed his card down before the waiter could even blink. Please allow me. Consider it my treat. Sweet Diego grinned. More money for ramen later. Vincent looked at me, clearly waiting for gratitude. See what I mean, Lena? You're in your 30s. You could have friends who discuss investments, not instant noodles. I met his eyes calmly. You're right. They're very unique. He smiled, thinking he'd won. But under the table, I texted Raj. Phase 1 complete. Thanks, guys. The Uber ride home was filled with Vincent's commentary. Marcus barely speaks like an adult. Diego's van, a biohazard on wheels. And Raj, those flip-flops. You're lucky no one from my company saw us. I nodded occasionally, letting him dig his own grave. He turned toward me suddenly. Promise me something. No more poker nights, okay? They're not good for you. You deserve better influences. Better influences, I repeated softly. Yes, he said firmly. You have potential, Lena. I just want you to reach it. I watched the city lights blur past the car window, my reflection flickering between them. The quiet woman who used to explain herself apologized, smoothed things over. Not anymore. By the time we pulled into his condo's driveway, I already knew exactly what I was going to do next. The next morning, while Vincent showered, I stood by the window with my phone in hand and typed, to Raj Phase 2, next Saturday, tech conference, bring the whole crew. Let's remind him who he's dealing with. I hit send. In the reflection, I saw my own faint smile, not vengeful, just calm, certain. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's truth revealed in daylight. By Monday morning, Vincent was still glowing from his so-called victory dinner. He thought he'd proven a point. He had no idea I was the one taking notes. When he texted me mid-morning, dinner was an eye-opener, babe. You deserve a better circle. We'll work on that together. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back, you're right, maybe it's time for an upgrade. He replied with a thumbs-up emoji and a heart. The irony made me laugh out loud. That week, he was at his most insufferable. He started leaving his business magazines on my coffee table, folding the corners on how to expand your professional network. He'd send me reels of luxury events, captioning them "your vibe" after a glow-up. He even suggested, no, instructed that I delete our poker night group chat. I didn't. I renamed it instead. Phase 2, Operation Flip Flop. When I told Raj, he sent back a string of emojis flip-flops, a fireball, and a laughing skull. Diego replied, "You sure you want to humiliate the guy in public?" Marcus added. "He deserves it, but subtle, like a software update, unnoticeable until it crashes his system." Kevin's only message was, "I'll bring the conference passes." By Thursday, I set the stage. Vincent and I were having dinner when I leaned forward casually. "There's this tech event next weekend," I said, slicing into my salmon. "Exclusive invitation only. Thought you might like it." His eyes lit up immediately. Tech. As in, investors, startup founders. Exactly. High-profile crowd. I can get us in through some old friends. He smirked. "See, that's what I mean, Lena. That's the direction you should be moving in, forward, not sideways." I smiled. "So you'll come?" "Of course," he said. "I'll help you make the right impression." He said it like a mentor, not a partner. I noted that too. Over the next few days, Vincent went into full preparation mode. He bought a new blazer, got a haircut, spent an hour practicing his elevator pitch in front of the mirror. Every night he'd ask, "Who exactly will be there?" And every night I'd answer, "You'll see." Meanwhile, my phone buzzed nonstop with messages from the guys. They were all in. Diego had arranged VIP access through his company. Raj was preparing his keynote. Marcus had the press release ready. Kevin, as always, was handling security. I watched the plan unfold like code compiling without error, quiet, inevitable, and spushgelly, satisfying. Friday night, Vincent stood in front of the mirror, admiring himself. He was wearing a gray suit, white shirt, and that confident smile I used to find charming. "This is going to be big," he said. "Exactly the kind of environment you should be in. Maybe you'll finally meet people who understand ambition." I zipped up my own outfit, a black pantsuit, neat but simple. "Maybe I already have," I murmured. He didn't catch it. The next morning, we took an Uber downtown. The conference center shimmered in glass and steel sunlight spilling across the pavement. Future Tech Summit, presented by Nexus Innovations. The banner stretched across the N-Bush sheet in bold silver letters. Vincent squinted. "Nexus Innovations, never heard of them." "They're kind of a big deal," I said. He adjusted his tie. "Well, let's make some connections." Inside, the place buzzed with energy booths, glowing with screens, young professionals swapping cards, voices echoing over microphones. Vincent looked thrilled like a kid at Disneyland. Then a woman in a sleek black suit approached. "Ms. Bush," she asked. "Mr. Patel said to expect you. Here are your VIP passes." Vincent blinked. "Patel?" "Yes," she said with a warm smile. "Mr. Raj Patel, founder of Nexus Innovations. He wanted to make sure you were seated near the front for his keynote." Vincent's face froze, confusion flickering into disbelief. "Raj, as in my Raj?" I asked innocently. The woman nodded. "Of course, he's our CEO." Vincent looked at me, then at the stage where Raj, still in flip-flops, was checking a microphone with a calm, commanding air. I leaned close and whispered, "Don't worry, he dressed up for the occasion. Those are limited edition flip-flops." We found our seats in the VIP section. Vincent was silent, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles whitened. On stage, Raj began his presentation. Fluent, confident, utterly magnetic. He spoke about neural networks, distributed infrastructure, the future of AI integration. The audience hung on every word. Then he introduced his co-founder, Diego. Vincent blinked again. Diego walked out in his hoodie holding a mic. "Let's talk about mobile data ecosystems," he began effortlessly, professional, his energy captivating. The room erupted in applause. Vincent's jaw tightened. They're part of this?" "Oh, not part," I said softly. "They built it." By the time Marcus appeared on stage to demonstrate the data visualization system, Vincent looked pale. When Kevin joined him to discuss encryption frameworks, a nearby journalist whispered, "That's Kevin Lay. He built CloudLock. Banks still pay him royalties." Vincent exhaled shakily. "CloudLock." I nodded, expression neutral. "Yeah. Kevin doesn't talk much. He lets his code speak." When the keynote ended, Raj spotted us from the stage and waved cheerfully. "Lena." I waved back. Vincent didn't move. The applause echoed around us. He looked at me slowly, and I saw the realization dawning behind his eyes. Everything he'd mocked, dismissed, and belittled was standing on that stage, commanding a room full of people who mattered far more than he ever would. I leaned in and whispered, Still think I should upgrade my circle. He didn't answer. And for the first time since I'd met him, Vincent looked small. When Raj's keynote ended, the applause was thunderous, the kind that echoes in your chest. I could feel Vincent's breathing next to me, short, shallow, mechanical. He was staring straight ahead, but his eyes weren't really seeing. People surged towards the exits, murmuring about innovations and IPOs. Vincent didn't move. He just whispered, That can't be our Raj. Oh, it can, I said lightly. And it is. He turned to me with a helpless laugh, half disbelief, half fear. But he wore flip-flops to a 5-star restaurant. I tilted my head. Some people don't need to prove they belong, Vincent. They just do. The crowd thinned as we walked through the conference hall. Everywhere I heard my friends' names: Raj Patel, co-founder of Nexus; Diego Morales, lead architect of their AI systems; Marcus Lee, head of data flow analytics; Kevin Lee, cybersecurity consultant behind CloudLock. Each name was a quiet blade, each headline another crack in Vincent's carefully polished shell. We stopped at the Nexus Innovations booth, where Diego was giving a live demo. He looked up, saw us, and smiled. Lena, you made it, Vincent stammered. Diego, you work here? Work here, Diego laughed. Man, I built this. He gestured toward the giant holographic display. Neural crosslink systems. We're rolling out to Fortune 500s next quarter. Vincent blinked. But the van. Oh yeah, my office on wheels, Diego said proudly. Wi-Fi's better than most buildings downtown. You should see the espresso machine set up. Marcus walked over, mid-conversation, tablet in hand, nodding at Vincent. Hey, you were at dinner, right? Nice meeting you. Vincent swallowed. You run your own company too? Data flow analytics, Marcus said casually. Predictive modeling, visual intelligence, boring stuff. Boring. He said it the same way someone says gold's heavy. I caught Kevin at the next booth, hoodie up, as usual, surrounded by 3 young developers asking for selfies. Kevin, I called out, meet Vincent. Kevin gave a curt nod. Hi. Vincent blinked. They're taking pictures with you? Yeah, Kevin said softly. They use my software. Vincent's lips parted. You're CloudLock. Kevin shrugged. Still pays the rent. Raj appeared then, calm and radiant, under the fluorescent lights, still in those infamous flip-flops, though now paired with a Nexus Innovations polo. There you are, he said, wrapping me in a friendly half-hug. You disappeared after the talk. Couldn't compete with your fan base, I said with a smile. He turned to Vincent. And you must be the boyfriend. Vincent tried to regain composure. He extended a trembling hand. Yes, impressive presentation. You're doing well for yourself. Raj shook his hand, friendly but firm. We've been lucky. Hard work and good people. Your girlfriend's one of the best. She's special, Vincent murmured. I've always said she should aim higher. Raj arched an eyebrow. Higher than this. Vincent's mouth opened and then closed again. As we walked through the hall, I watched him shrink with every step. His confidence, that sharp, glittering arrogance, was dissolving into something raw and human humiliation. He stopped near the exit and turned to me, voice low. You knew. You set me up. I met his gaze evenly. I invited you to meet them again like you asked. That dinner was a joke. They played along to humiliate me. They played along because you decided what they were worth before you even shook their hands. His voice rose, cracking. You could have told me who they were. I folded my arms. Would it have changed anything? Would you have respected them or just pretended to? He hesitated, and in that silence I had my answer. Raj joined us again, cheerful as ever. Lena poker night next week. Wouldn't miss it, I said. Vincent flinched at the mention. Raj gave him a sympathetic smile. No hard feelings, man. We all make mistakes. Just don't judge by footwear next time. He walked away before Vincent could respond. In the Uber ride home, silence filled the space between us. The city outside was alive, bright, effortless. But inside, it felt like being trapped in a vacuum. Vincent stared out the window, face pale. I could almost see the storm behind his reflection, shame, confusion, disbelief. Finally, he whispered, Why didn't you tell me? I looked at him calmly. Because if I had, you would have played nice. You would have shaken their hands, pretended interest, and told me later that they weren't your type of people. I wanted you to show me who you really are. He turned to me sharply. So this was a test? No, I said softly. It was a mirror. When we reached my apartment, he didn't follow me upstairs. He just stood by the car, eyes down, voice hollow. I can't believe I made a fool of myself. I opened my door and met his gaze. You didn't make a fool of yourself, Vincent. You revealed yourself. And then for the first time since I'd met him, he had nothing to say. I closed the door behind me, leaned against it, and exhaled long, steady, clean. Somewhere in my phone, a new message popped up from Raj. Phase 2 complete. Thursday always. I smiled. For the first time in months, the air felt light. The air in the Uber was so thick I could hear it hum. Vincent sat beside me, silent, staring straight ahead. The city lights flickered across his reflection, gold, red, blue, each one bouncing off his face like fragments of the man he used to think he was. He hadn't spoken a word since the conference ended. Not one. Not even when people congratulated Raj and Diego right in front of him. Not when Marcus gave a TV interview 2 meters away. Not when Kevin politely declined a journalist's selfie with a soft, "Sorry, I don't like cameras." And not when Raj leaned toward me smiling and said, "Next week bring more chips. We're going all in." Vincent didn't flinch, but I saw his jaw tighten. Now in the back seat of the Uber, his mask was gone. All that was left was silence and shame. The driver asked softly, "Quiet night, huh?" Vincent didn't answer. I offered a polite smile. "Yeah, just tired." Tired. That word felt too small for what I was. He finally spoke, voice low. "You planned this." I turned toward him slowly. "Planned what?" "That spectacle," he said, his tone cracking under the weight of humiliation. "You brought me there just to humiliate me." "No," I said evenly. "I brought you there so you could finally see." See what he snapped. "The people you dismissed. The ones you called losers. The ones who've quietly built everything you admire." He turned to me sharply. "You could have told me who they were." "I did," I said quietly. "You just didn't listen." He frowned. "When? When I told you Raj loved his flip-flops, you heard lazy. When I said Diego lived in a van, you heard failure. When I mentioned Marcus working on projects from home, you heard unemployed. And Kevin, you didn't even hear him at all." His face flushed. "That's not fair." "It's perfectly fair." I said, my voice soft but steady. "You looked at everyone through the same lens you use on yourself. Image first. Character later, if ever." He ran a hand through his perfect hair, shaking his head. "You made me look stupid." I looked out the window at the glowing skyline. "You did that on your own." He clenched his fists. "I was trying to help you, Lena. You have no idea how this world works. I wanted you to what I interrupted. To act like you. To believe that success means suits and status. That humility is weakness." He looked away, his reflection flickering in the glass. The driver slowed at a red light. We sat there in the crimson glow, neither speaking. Then Vincent muttered, almost to himself, "They didn't even act successful. They were casual, laughing, joking. It's like they didn't care who was watching." I smiled faintly. "That's the difference, Vincent. They don't need to act successful. They already are." He said nothing after that. The rest of the ride was silent, except for the soft hum of tires and the faint melody of a love song the driver had playing. Halfway home, I noticed Vincent's reflection again, his face, slack eyes, hollow pride bleeding out quietly. And Sam Bushgelly, I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt tired. Tired of explaining kindness to arrogance. Tired of defending sincerity to someone who thought authenticity was amateur. Tired of trying to love someone who only loved the version of me that fit into his world. When we reached my apartment, the driver stopped at the curb. Vincent finally looked at me, eyes red around the edges. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I nodded. "I know, but you did." He hesitated. "So that's it. You're just done." I unbuckled my seatbelt. "No, Vincent, you're done. I'm just getting started." He blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I stopped trying to prove my worth to people who measure it in brands and bragging rights." He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. I stepped out into the cool night air, the city humming around me. The driver gave me a sympathetic look in the rearview mirror as he pulled away, leaving Vincent alone in the back seat, his silhouette shrinking into the traffic. For a long time, I just stood there under the streetlight, the world around me soft and quiet, like it was waiting for something. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. Not to him, not to anyone. Inside my apartment, my phone buzzed. It was Raj. "Raj, you good me?" "Yeah." He finally saw. Raj took him long enough. Me. He wasn't ready for the truth. Raj, few people ever are. I put my phone down, turned off the lights, and let the silence wash over me. Outside, somewhere far away, a car horn echoed through the night, a small distant sound. It felt like the world was closing one chapter, so I could begin another. 3 days passed before Vincent reached out. At first, I thought he wouldn't. Pride can silence even the loudest people. But humiliation has a spush way of cracking armor. When my phone finally rang, his name lit up on the screen. I let it ring out. Twice. The third time, curiosity won. I answered quietly. "Hello." Lena, his voice trembled, calm, but fragile, like glass about to shatter. "Can we talk?" A pause. The kind of pause where all the old emotions try to crawl back in pity nostalgia habit. But I only said, about what? About everything, he sighed. I know I messed up. I was wrong. About your friends. About you. He showed up outside my apartment 30 minutes later, holding a small box of macarons, the same ones he used to bring when he wanted to smooth over a fight. He looked smaller somehow, the blazer, the confidence all gone. Just a man with shaking hands and tired eyes. I didn't know who they were, he said as soon as I opened the door. If I had known, I never. I stopped him right there. If you had known, you would have pretended to respect them. He flinched. That's not true. It's exactly true, Vincent. I leaned against the doorframe. You didn't hate my friends because they weren't successful. You hated them because they didn't need to prove it. He stared down at the box in his hands. I made assumptions. I know that now. Assumptions, I repeated, folding my arms. You tried to control who I spent time with. You mocked people who supported me long before you ever existed in my life. His voice cracked. I just wanted what was best for you. I tilted my head. No, you wanted what looked best for you. He didn't argue. For once, he just stood there quiet. Then he said something that almost sounded sincere. They're good people. Brilliant, even. I'd like to apologize to them. Apologize, I repeated slowly. Yes, maybe we could do dinner again. I could make it right. Start fresh. It took me a second to realize what he meant, and then it hit me. He wasn't sorry for what he'd done. He was sorry he'd miscalculated. He wanted another chance not to love me better, but to network smarter. I smiled faintly. You want dinner with them again? He nodded eagerly. I think we all got off on the wrong foot. I was judgmental, I admit it, but if we can rebuild, maybe we can all benefit. You know, opportunities come from connections. There it was, the word that killed whatever sympathy I had left: connections. I took a slow step back. Vincent, let me make this simple. He looked up hopeful. Okay. You don't get to call what you did a misunderstanding. You tried to isolate me from my friends because they didn't fit your image. And now that you know they're successful, you want to use them. His face fell. That's not... Don't bother, I interrupted. You don't want a second chance. You want a second introduction. He swallowed hard. Lena, please, I'm trying. I know, I said softly, but not for the right reasons. A long silence filled the hallway, the kind that feels like truth finally settling in. Then I added, you once told me I needed to surround myself with people who inspire me. You were right, just not in the way you meant. He frowned. What does that mean? It means I'm done surrounding myself with people who think kindness is a weakness and authenticity is unpolished. He stared at me for a long time, eyes glossy, jaw tense. So that's it. I nodded. That's it. He looked like he wanted to say more, but no words came. Finally, he set the macarons down on the step, turned, and walked away. For the first time since I'd known him, he didn't look like a man performing for an audience. He just looked lost. That night, my phone buzzed. Raj all good me. He came by. Marcus. Let me guess, wanted a job, me close, wanted a dinner. Diego Bro, still networking. Kevin block him. I laughed out loud, the sound filling my apartment like sunlight through open curtains. I replied, done. Thursday night, my place. Raj sent a flip-flop emoji. Marcus followed with a beer emoji. Diego added a gif of poker chips. Thursday came fast. The air smelled like rain and redemption. The guys arrived one by one, flip-flops, hoodies, laughter, warmth. As we played cards and argued over snacks, Raj asked casually, so how's the ex? Gone, I said simply. For good. Kevin smirked. Guess he learned what real value looks like. I looked around the room at the men who never once made me feel less than who celebrated my wins, even when they were buried in small moments. Yeah, I said softly. He finally did. Later that night, when everyone left and the house was quiet again, I found the macaron box still sitting by the door, untouched. Perfect on the outside, empty on the inside. I threw it away. Then I sat by the window watching the rain slide down the glass and whispered to myself, not as revenge, not as closure, but as truth. I don't need someone who looks impressive standing next to me. I need someone who stays humble, sitting beside me. It's been 2 months since that night, the night I closed my door and didn't look back. 2 months since I stopped shrinking myself to fit inside someone else's version of enough. And you know what? The world didn't end. It got quieter, simpler, better. Thursday poker nights are back in full swing. Raj still brings too many chips. Diego still argues over the rules. Marcus keeps a running spreadsheet of everyone's losses for statistical fairness. And Kevin, well, Kevin's still Kevin. Quiet, brilliant, steady. Sometimes when the laughter fills my apartment, I think about how close I came to giving all this up, to trading warmth for aesthetics, friendship for image, love for approval. Vincent taught me something without ever meaning to. There are people who will only love the reflection of themselves they see in you. And the moment that reflection stops flattering them, they'll try to replace the mirror. I decided to stop being anyone's mirror. A few days ago, I ran into Vincent at a coffee shop downtown. It was almost cinematic, me ordering my usual iced black coffee. Him standing in line behind me, phone pressed to his ear, wearing that same designer confidence like a second skin. He didn't notice me at first, not until I turned slightly and our eyes met. For a split second, I saw it, the recognition, the flicker of discomfort, the faint curl of memory. Then he saw what I was wearing. A black Nexus Innovations hoodie. Raj had given it to me after their latest funding round. Vincent's expression changed instantly. His shoulders stiffened, his lips pressed tight. He looked away, didn't say a word. When the barista called my name, I took my drink, smiled politely, and left. Outside, the sunlight caught the edge of my cup, and for the first time it hit me. Not everything needs closure. Some stories end quietly when the other person finally realizes they lost access to your peace. Back home, the boys were already setting up the poker table. Raj is bringing beer, Diego announced from the kitchen. Kevin says he coded a randomizer for dealer turns. I laughed. You guys are incapable of doing anything normally, huh? Marcus grinned. Hey, it's called efficiency. As the night rolled on, the table filled with laughter and inside jokes that didn't need explaining. We played cards, teased each other, and talked about projects, dreams, life. And for once, I didn't feel the urge to shrink to apologize for being comfortable in my own world. Because this messy, genuine, unfiltered chaos was mine. Later that night, when everyone had gone and the apartment was still warm, with the ghost of laughter, I poured myself a glass of wine and stood by the window. The city lights shimmered below, scattered and beautiful, imperfect, but alive. I thought about all the versions of me that had tried to keep everyone happy. The girl who apologized too much. The woman who confused being accommodating with being kind. The professional who downplayed her skills to make others feel less small. And then softly I smiled because she was gone. In her place stood someone who had finally learned that silence isn't weakness, that walking away isn't coldness, and that real worth doesn't need validation, it just needs time to breathe. If you'd told me months ago that I'd find peace through heartbreak, I would have laughed. But the truth is, sometimes you don't lose someone. You just lose your tolerance for what hurt you. And in that loss, you find yourself again. Before heading to bed, I checked my phone. Raj had texted, Raj, next Thursday, my place. Theme night. Everyone wears flip-flops. Diego, I'm in. Marcus, statistically, I'll win this round. Kevin, doubtful. I grinned and typed back, fine, but I'm bringing the wine and zero apologies. Outside, the city kept humming, indifferent, endless, forgiving. And for the first time in years, I wasn't looking for permission to exist within it. I just did. Because real power, I whispered to the glass, isn't about who you impress, it's about who you refuse to explain yourself to. The lights blurred softly in the distance like a curtain call. And behind me on the table sat a single poker chip. Flipped upright, glinting under the lamp, a small,